Good morning everyone and happy August. Thank God it's the end of August. I absolutely hate summer. I'm obviously in the Northern Hemisphere and I have been struggling to live, to survive and just to get through summer and arrive into autumn, which is by far my favourite season actually. I would rank them autumn, winter, spring and summer. So very much a witch's calendar I suppose, but yes, autumn is frankly a resurrection for me. I can't wait, and I've been really enjoying all of the autumn content by kind of lifestyle creators and cozy creators and booktubers as well. So yes, can't wait for autumn. I'm just so happy. This video is going to be in two parts. This is going to be me recapping my London trip. I took a London trip in August. I've been on holiday, I should say. I've been on holiday for the past 3 weeks. I'm going back, today's Monday, and I'm going back to work on Wednesday. It's never long enough, honestly. I would love to be on holiday forever, but unfortunately I do have to work and pay my bills. So yeah, but it has been absolutely magical 3 weeks, especially since I'm going to talk about that in the second part, but especially since I managed to do something which I've been wanting to do for a long while, which is really focus on reading new to me authors. So my goal for the 3 weeks of holiday was one, to go to London, and two, to read a lot, and especially to read a lot of new to me authors, which I managed to do. I don't know if you're straight or not. I think, is this better? Who knows? But yes, and the reason why I want to do that is because during the year when I'm working all day and I only have time to read in the evenings and at the weekends, I find it harder to pick up a book by a completely brand new author. It takes a lot of my mental space, I suppose, and a lot of my energy, and I just fall back into reading things which I'm already familiar with, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I love rereading, for example. I'm a huge rereader, but I really wanted to try new authors, and I needed the mental space and a kind of curiosity and appetite for new things and for novelty, which would get me out of my comfort zone. I can only find that really on holiday when I'm completely relaxed and at peace. So I meant to do that, so I'm so happy about that. Okay, I'm going to timestamp this video obviously, because the first part is going to be my London recap and the second part is going to be my reading and watching. So let's go. So first of all, if you're here for the London recap, this is honestly, for me, I mean, I'm not expecting anybody to actually watch this, but I really love recapping my holidays. So I went to London from August 10th to August 14th, came back here on August 14th, and these were really, there was a solo trip. My boyfriend doesn't have a passport at the moment and he didn't want to go to London with me, so that's fine. I came back to him, and that was lovely to actually recap all the things to him and just talk for hours. That was great. But yeah, so Sunday 10th of August, I came on the Eurostar. I actually took the first Eurostar from Paris to London, and I don't know if I'm going to do that moving forward, because that was really early. I had to wake up at 4 in the morning, which was a bit mad, and just to take the Eurostar on time, and I was really nervous and anxious. I was the first one in line, even though it's not a plane, you're not actually flying there, it's a train. There's still passport control and border control, and I was anxious, honestly. I'm always anxious when I travel, but yeah. Anyway, I didn't have much planned for that day. All I wanted to do was to look around and do a tour. I did a London luxury hotel tour, where we went to a few places which had or still have a luxury hotel in London. I learned quite a bit. The guide was absolutely wonderful. He wrote an entire book about Brown's Hotel, which I desperately want to purchase, and my initial plan actually way back was to do this tour and then book an afternoon tea at Brown's. The budget didn't stretch that far this year, but I'm definitely going to be doing that on a future trip, definitely, because we did go to Brown's. We didn't go inside, we just stayed outside, but it was still lovely, and the tour was very informative and really focused on differences between hotels then and hotels now, and what makes a London luxury hotel in his opinion. his criteria is very simple. For it to be a luxury hotel today in the category of luxury hotel, it needs to have never been renamed, rebuilt and relocated, meaning that Brown's is actually the oldest hotel, the oldest luxury hotel in London today. It was founded by a family who actually welcomed you to the hotel and took care of you at the hotel. At the time, nothing was all-inclusive, meaning that you paid for the room, and then you would have a bill handed to you at the end of your trip, listing all of the hot water that you used, or listing all of the electricity that you used. And there were no lifts at the time, so the most expensive rooms were actually on the first floor. It's fascinating. I learned tons of things on this tour, and it was wonderful. We talked about the Savoy, we talked about the Cavendish, the Ritz and Brown's, and actually got something from this. Actually, I got a TV show recommendation, which I'm going to talk about in the second part of the video. Monday was my Oxford day. I went to Oxford for a year for my master's degree back in 2009, 2010, and I was an exchange student at Oxford for a year, New College. So, and I hadn't been back to Oxford since then, so it's been what, 16 years. It's been 16 years. So I was on tour of Oxford, and it was surreal actually to go back to, I don't know if you've ever been back to your former school when you were a student after many years have passed, but nothing has changed, but you've changed. And I cried a few times actually. It was a group tour, so I was one of many, so I didn't want to be too emotional in front of people, to not make them too comfortable, but I did cry a few times, and I saw things which I hadn't seen since I was a teenager, pretty much in my 20s, my early 20s. It was so moving. Again, nothing has changed. I have changed, obviously, but yeah, it was it was really good actually to go back, and felt really emotional. And I went back and I went shopping in Blackwell's, which I had, I've been shopping there since my student days, and I had an iced coffee and a carrot cake at the Vauxhall Garden, which was one of my student haunts back in the day, and I was able to see a few pubs which definitely had a few bad dates at the time, and ice cream dates as well, and the High Street and Broad Street, and God, it was almost too much, honestly. And I would have wanted to just stay a while, but we didn't have much free time. We had about an hour of free time, so I wasn't able to go back to where I lived at the time in student accommodation next to New College. I didn't have time to go back there, but still, just seeing Oxford again was completely marvellous. And yes, that day was Oxford in the afternoon, and the morning was actually two villages in the Cotswolds, including Burford, and it was so lovely. I had never been to the Cotswolds before. I don't drive, so I had never been to Cotswolds before, and I'd seen it online, obviously, but it's definitely, if I could pick any place in the world to live, I would pick the Cotswolds. I think it's just so beautiful and so quaint and quiet, but lovely as well. Though there are two sides of it too. It's so expensive. Housing is so expensive in the Cotswolds that the streets were completely empty when we went, and completely quiet. And a guide actually told us, which makes sense, that nobody actually lives there full time, and the only time he was able to find someone who lived there full time was actually a housekeeper, and meaning that all of those villages have absolutely no life to them, pretty much, and there's no post office, there's no school, there's nothing at all. And it was eerie in a way. We went through fields and a cricket field, and it was, the only people we saw were tourists, so gorgeous places, but I don't know if you could really make a life there. Granted, we went to perhaps the smallest villages in the Cotswolds for a tour, but it was lovely. It was so pretty and so picturesque, and like a postcard, honestly, gorgeous. On Tuesday, August 12th, I was supposed to get to Cambridge. I think I have a weird relationship to Cambridge. Again, I went to Oxford as an exchange student, so Cambridge will forever be the other place for me, but I have never been able to visit. Every time I want to visit Cambridge, I make plans for it and something happens. I don't know if I'm meant to visit Cambridge actually, but anyway, I had plans to visit Cambridge on August 12th, and because we didn't reach the minimum number of participants, I wasn't able to go. The trip was cancelled, so I had to make other plans. I actually made plans to actually booked a food tour of Camden Market, which we call the Camden Market in London, but it's actually 5 markets. It's not just one single place, it's several places. And the problem with this kind of place is actually if you don't know, if you're not local, I lived in London for a year, but still, if you're not a local, it's very hard to find really good food, and everything like bad food is very in your face, whereas very good food you have to really look for it. So because of this tour, I was able to taste many different good foods and many lovely bites, truly, and we were very full by the end of it. It was a group of, I think, 12 people. It's actually funny because this entire trip was completely, I booked several things with different companies and made my own, very custom. But obviously I joined group tours whenever I could. That's my favourite way to travel actually, is to learn something. As I look at something beautiful, is to learn something about it in the process. And group tours are very, to me actually, I was one of the most gorgeous ways to travel when you're a solo traveller, because you meet people along the way, people who in 2 hours you're not going to see ever again, which is perfect for me. That's my limit actually. I'm an introvert, and so if I talk to people for 2 hours, I'm completely peopled out. But at the end of it, I need to go back to my hotel and recharge. So I was able to do that. Anyway, the Camden tour had a large group of Americans. That was a whole family, and Londoners and English people actually, but not from London. And I was the only one who was from abroad, apart from the American group. And that was funny actually, because nobody, because we were all very impressed by the food. But at the end of it, we had Yorkshire pudding wraps, so a fresh take on a classic. We had birria tacos. They were really great, very spicy though. We had 2 different types of gin. We had an Italian stop at some point, which was not the most memorable, I would say. For me, the most memorable parts were actually humble crumble, which is a kind of newish kind of thing, which makes crumble all year round, and you've got different flavours. And what I love the most about it, actually, the crumble itself was excellent, but what I love the most about it was that the custard was warm, and I thought, this is genius. This makes the entire dish. It was so comforting. And the second thing I liked the most was actually a cheese stop, where we just sat down and had entire cheese platters with different pairings. So we had cheeses, different types of cheeses, which were all gorgeous. The guide actually apologised to me beforehand, and he said, I know you're French, I'm so sorry, these are British cheeses. But that's fine. I'm here to learn. Please give me British cheeses. So we had all kinds of cheeses on the plate, along with jams and preserves to go with, and alcohol as well. We had lovely, at some point actually, the best part of this cheese experience, I suppose, was that we had goat cheese ice cream at the end, so you could taste the cheese, and then we had goat cheese ice cream at the same place, and you could actually make a sort of affogato with it by pouring dessert wine on top of it, which I did. So I had the goat cheese ice cream on its own, which was spectacular. Wow, this should be everywhere. This should be an option everywhere. It made so much sense to have a bit of savoury to an ice cream. The pairing was absolutely wonderful. It was actually goat cheese ice cream with rosemary. Still sweet, but had a touch of salt, and I can't even tell you just how good that was. That was amazing. I have to track this down here, a version of it somewhere. And the dessert wine paired with it. Both versions were really good. The goat cheese ice cream on its own, and the affogato version, absolutely wonderful. Wow, that plus the crumble, plus the plus the Yorkshire wrap. I think the Yorkshire pudding wrap was just so gorgeous. Honestly, that was my favourite stops. But anyway, that was very good, and we had some really good history of Camden as well. Our guide was obsessed with Camden. He didn't tell us that much about the food, but he told us a lot about Camden, which I thought was very interesting. Especially the music scene. He was a musician. That was very interesting. So yeah, that was my Tuesday, and then I went to do some shopping. I went to, oh actually, well, I should show you, but I went to James Smith. James Smith is an umbrella shop in London, and it's a marvel in there. It's a very tiny shop. The employers are so dedicated and so elegant, and so this is the true meaning of luxury to me. The items were not very expensive, although there are some items which are very expensive in there, canes and very intricate and elaborate sticks, and umbrellas as well. But what I was looking for was very high street. It was very affordable. I was looking for a foldable umbrella which would kind of be a step above plain black umbrella, which I had at the time. So I had a foldable black umbrella which was very sturdy and served me well, but I wanted something better. So I went into the shop. It was very crowded, bizarrely, and the employees were just so, the staff was so welcoming in a very understated, luxurious way, and very elegant. And the gentleman who served me told me how to fold my umbrella and how to maintain it, and just the whole experience was wonderful. Honestly, it didn't cost much more than a supermarket umbrella, I would say, but the whole experience was lovely, and I was able to choose my pattern, and I ended up with a gorgeous umbrella. I think this one right here, so it's a foldable umbrella, and that's the pattern. And what I love the most about it is that, I mean, the pattern is absolutely gorgeous, and he opened it for me. It was beautiful. But it's a William Morris pattern, actually. I don't know if it's the William Morris estate or something, that decided to use his patterns for umbrellas. So this is an original William Morris pattern, which seems amazing to me. And that was very affordable. That was £30 or something, very affordable. But I love the I love the print, and I love it's a William Morris pattern. I just love that. It's a piece of luxury in my handbag every day, which I love. So that was my foray into shopping on Tuesday. I also went to Twinings to buy, one of my colleagues is actually obsessed with a tin of biscuits from Twinings, which you can only get there, and so I bought her these biscuits, and I also bought some tea, but I'm not going to talk about the tea because it's quite disappointing, actually. I'm trying to get through it, but it's quite disappointing tea. So I love their Christmas range of teas, which they have seasonally, but it wasn't Christmas, obviously. It was August. Didn't have any of that, and I bought just what I could find, just so that the trip wasn't just for her biscuits. I felt a bit underwhelmed, I suppose, when I got there and saw all of these green teas, which I have no interest in, and her biscuits. So I bought her biscuits, and just to make the trip worthwhile, I suppose, I bought some tea, but it was very disappointing. That was my Tuesday. Wednesday was a royal day out, so I went to Buckingham Palace in the morning, and then to Hercules in the evening. Buckingham Palace, I did 3 things. I started with the King's Gallery. At the moment they've got an exhibition on the Edwardians, Age of Elegance, which was spectacular. So good. I loved it. It's just 3 rooms, but the paintings we were able to see and the objects we were able to see were just so beautiful. I love the Edwardian period, obviously, so that was a huge treat for me. And so that was really great, honestly, about the Edwardians. And then I went to the Royal Mews. The horses on holiday in Scotland, so there weren't any horses there, but we were able to see different carriages, and also the stables as well, to learn about the horses and to learn about all of the carriages. There were gorgeous carriages, honestly, there. And then I did a free not free, it was very expensive, but I did a tour on my own of the state rooms with the audio guide, and the state rooms are incredible. I don't know if you've ever been to, this is one of the last, they told us at the beginning actually that it was one of the last royal palaces that was still used for its intended purpose. Meaning that it's still being used today as royal residence. So only certain parts of it are open to the public, and only at certain times of the year, so the summer being one, because the royal family is not there. So the king, I think, is in Scotland right now, so the staterooms are open to the public, and it was gorgeous. I mean, they're absolutely stunning. I have no words. The audio guide was very informative, very good. It wasn't too crowded. They give you a time slot, so it wasn't too crowded at all. I could walk about just pretty much freely, and absolutely gorgeous. Honestly, I just gasped when I went in there. Photography is not allowed, so I just enjoyed, feasted my eyes on all of these luxury. Absolutely gorgeous. The kinds of paintings they have there is incredible, and yeah, I really enjoyed that. There is a garden highlight tour which I would like to do next, and an East Wing exclusive tour, which is a guided tour exclusive. So you can't just go on your own, you have to take the guided tour to go there, which I would like to go to do next as well one day. But yeah, that was very impressive. I love the royal collection. I love going there and supporting them, and just supporting all of this beauty, and wow, honestly, just wow. So pleased, and security was very good. I have to say, it's just such a contrast every time I go to England actually. It's such a contrast between Paris and London. It's just so much safer in London. Nobody talked to me, nobody said hello, nobody tried to harass me on the street. It was great experience. Hercules in the evening was okay. It wasn't the best. It's been compared to Aladdin. Aladdin is actually one of my favourite musicals. I think it works so well on stage, has such energy. Hercules was very good as well, but parts of it felt like I can't believe I'm saying that, but too much comedy. Hades, for example, and yeah, Hades in particular, I thought would be more of a villain, and he was not. He was purely for comedic purposes, and he made me laugh a few times. This whole musical is very light and fun, and I just take it for what it is. Honestly, it was good, but it wasn't memorable as Hercules was. I have so many musicals to watch, so I definitely want to go back soon. Thursday was my leaving day. Actually, my Eurostar was at 3 p.m. and I went to one of my favourite parts of the trip actually was the Churchill War Rooms. So I booked the secret tour of Churchill War Rooms. Absolutely riveting. It was so informative and so good and so emotional as well, but the guide kept it so fun and upbeat, and gave it so many anecdotes which you can't really find anywhere, which people just don't remember and don't learn about, I suppose. But I went to Churchill War Rooms, which you can do the tour on your own with an audio guide, and there's a Churchill Museum there as well. But I picked the guided tour, and I'm so glad I did. And it was just so emotional. The first thing you see is a bomb. They kept German bomb actually there as a reminder of what it would have felt like, and we just toured this entire place. There was an office for the war, and the Germans had no idea that it existed, and had no idea Churchill was there most of the time. Churchill had his room, his office there. His wife the guide said Clementine, so I'm going to say Clementine. I kept saying Clementine this entire time, but Clementine had a bedroom there as well. I took a picture of her bedroom there. Actually, it was so pretty. But officers were there, typists were there, experts and the military experts were there, and that's where everything happened really. The map room was there. The whole experience was, again, just not overwhelming in any way, just very informative and inspirational. And the first thing I did actually when back home was to watch Darkest Hour with Gary Oldman as Churchill. And I hadn't seen the film before actually, but I just wanted to dive into Britain during the Second World War. It was so good, and we heard about the Blitz, and God, it was so good. Honestly, it was so good, and it made me want to do so much afterwards. It made me want to watch films, to read books. It made me want to, at some point, for example, the guide talked about how Clementine delivered so many speeches during the war, and Brits today don't even know that, but at the time her voice was as recognisable as Churchill's voice to anybody in Britain. I had no idea, and most people actually have no idea. So I definitely want to read more about her. I definitely want to read more about him. It was incredible, honestly, just one of those once in a lifetime, just like you changed afterwards, really. So yeah, the bookshop was always also very interesting, the gift shop afterwards. I saw a book there which I desperately wanted to read now, called Victory in the Kitchen, about Churchill's cook. But yeah, just absolutely wonderful stuff. Honestly, just couldn't have been better. And then I went back home. I bought two more things which I wanted to show you very quickly. The Simple Things magazine, the August edition, called Ripple. I read this on the Eurostar back home, so I've read it cover to cover now. I need to do Sudoku and the crossword at the end, but apart from that I read it in full. It's brilliant. I love the Simple Things. And this Blackwell tote. Blackwell's tote. Blackwell's is an institution, actually it's a bookshop in Oxford, and yeah, it just brought back so many memories going there, and I love what it says actually on the tote. That's why I chose this one in particular, for learning for life, and yeah, I just absolutely love that. I didn't buy that much actually going there because I didn't have that much space in my suitcase. I bought a brand new suitcase which I'm going to show you here. Brilliant suitcase, so sturdy. I love the colour. I got so many compliments randomly out of the blue. My hotel is gorgeous, gorgeous staff, gorgeous hotel. I always go back to the same hotel. It's pure luxury. And but yeah, I got so many compliments there about my suitcase, which is yeah, which I wasn't expecting. But yeah, that was an amazing trip to London. I'm so glad I went. It was just heaven, honestly, heaven on earth. And yeah. So moving on, it's been half an hour already, so I'm trying to talk as fast as I can. Moving on to the books and shows and movies that I watched this summer and read this summer and enjoyed this summer. So mostly this is going to be recommendations, although there are a couple of things which I kind of want your advice on, I suppose, the things which are not straight recommendations but which are interesting to talk about, I suppose. Okay, so I have divided this into categories. The first category is Gilded Age Books and Shows. I have watched the entire season 3 of the Gilded Age show, which I am absolutely obsessed with, and I don't want to spoil anybody, but the third season is excellent, 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 excellent. We have several proposals and both proposals are beautiful. So yeah, absolutely gorgeous, and I'm just so happy this show exists. Honestly, it's about the period of history which I've always been fascinated by, and it's Julian Fellows, so it's mostly light and fun and full of love, and I just love it. I just love this show. Okay, so I read a few books about the Gilded Age because I just fell down a rabbit hole and wanted to read nothing else and wanted to hear nothing else for a while. A Season of Splendor, The Court of Mrs. Astor in Gilded Age, New York by Greg King. The cover of this book is absolutely gorgeous. I bought this on my Kindle. I think most, if not all of the books here I'm going to talk about I bought my Kindle. But absolutely gorgeous, and I've been wanting to read this book for years, and this was the last push really for me to buy. It's an expensive copy, so it was the last push for me to buy it. I do want to have the hardcovers someday because this was the best book I read about the Gilded Age. I've read several, I'm going to see, but this was the best book really I read about the Gilded Age. It focuses on, it's not really so much about Mrs. Astor as it is about the happy few who had a lot of money at the time and who had a lot of expensive tastes and just wanted to spend as much money as possible building things and building, I think, a legacy that would be European but also with a touch of American flair. And it was a time with people had unchecked money, there were no taxes at all, and people just made their money and spent it as much as they could, and it's a very excessive kind of period really, because you had the worst and the best, and but it's just so fascinating to me, honestly, that these people just acquired treasures, really acquired treasures, and to build again treasures which a lot of them still can be visited and can be enjoyed today. And this was such a good book, honestly, just talking about all sorts of things and all sorts of families which were made, and dynasties which were made as well, and how this money just couldn't be kept really. It was just like a moment in time, and very few families actually kept the money that they acquired during this time afterwards, because it just wasn't sustainable at all. And how people like Jay Gould, for example, were just so ruthless in business, but such family men, and so tender at home as well. Just fascinating stuff. I loved this book so much. If you read just one book about the Gilded Age, make it this one maybe. I also listened to Vanderbilt, The Rise and Fall of an American Dynasty by Anderson Cooper and Katherine Howe. Anderson Cooper is actually Vanderbilt. His family is, his ancestors are Vanderbilt. And this was a very good listen, actually. And Anderson Cooper narrates his own book. And this was a very good listen because it was a private insight into the Vanderbilt dynasty. And it talked about things which I read the books kind of at the same time, so they kind of merge into one for me. But it talks about things which it doesn't talk about the Gilded Age exclusively. It talks about the Vanderbilts as a whole, and it talks about the breakers and what happened with the Newport Preservation Society, which was fascinating to me. It's about his mother and his grandmother, and again, how money just couldn't be kept really in the family, and how it just vanished little by little, and yeah, just generation by generation. And it was a very good counterpoint, I think, to more general books about the period, because this one was about very much a family, and you had a family connection and ties. So yeah, very much enjoyed that. I also read Gilded, How Newport Became America's Richest Resort by Deborah Davis, which was all about Newport, how it mushroomed into a seaside resort, fell out of favour at some point, and then rose to fame again when the rich and famous came back to Newport in the Gilded Age and beyond. It talked about Truman Capote, about Jackie Kennedy, all sorts of things, just absolutely, just very interesting actually. And it was very much about, again, about Newport as a whole. So it doesn't talk about the cottages, which I think was a shame. Personally, this is top of my priority list actually, to visit the cottages of Newport. It doesn't really talk about them, but it talks about how to make a seaside town successful. So what you need to do to attract people, to attract tourists, to attract money, to attract fame to your town as a seaside resort. And it was very interesting. Again, just very good books. I also read Consuelo and Alva Vanderbilt by Mackenzie Stuart. Again, very good biography of those two women, especially the causes that they were interested in, and what work they did, you know, and what why they should be remembered today. And what I personally was a bit sad about, I suppose, was that what I regretted really reading those books is that the only book which talks about Alva's racist stance is Vanderbilt, The Rise and Fall of American Dynasty. All of those books really talk about how wonderful these people were, and they were, but they also had a less palatable side, which I think we'd have to take into account when talking about those people and talking about their lives. And yeah, the only book which actually did that in a good way was Vanderbilt, The Rise and Fall of American Dynasty by Anderson Cooper. But this Amanda Mackenzie Stuart book was also very good, and actually really looked at the relationship between Consuelo and Alva, and their kind of amazing personalities both, and how they managed to forge a path for themselves at a time when women were excluded from society pretty much. I also read Gilded Age by Esther Crain, which I would not, I suppose it's a good it's a good taster of the Gilded Age. It's an illustrated book, which is a coffee table book, really. It's massive, and it's a good overview of the period. Certainly it talks about a lot of things which we're not going to find in those other books. Actually, it talks about gangsters, crime, the women's suffrage movement, poverty, zoos, all sorts of things, and entertainment, all sorts of things. at the time. I think it's just the scope of this book is kind of beyond the book itself. It wasn't enough, I suppose. It just tried to do too much in so few pages, I think, and that's why it lost me a little bit, because the things that I was interested in had like maybe 1-2 sentences in the book, because there was so much to cover. So it's a good overview of the period, I think, but it's lacking in certain respects, I think. I loved reading about the Gilded Age. Honestly, I've got so many books on my wish list still, and I desperately want to go to Newport and see the cottages and visit the cottages, and go to New York and see, and other parts of America actually, where there's still Gilded Age architecture. That's my goal, honestly, but who knows when that's going to happen. But that was brilliant, honestly. I just loved the show so much. I loved reading about this period so much. Yeah. Okay, I read ahead of time, because there were ARCs or pre-orders, a few books which I want to talk about here. They're in different categories. First of all is Laying Down the Latte, which is the latest book in the Big Shop Mystery series by Ellie Alexander. This is the book number 21. This is my favourite cozy mystery book. It's a culinary cozy mystery series, and Laying Down the Latte is the latest one, released in August. I actually was sent an ARC of this book unexpectedly, so I was so happy to read it in advance. My paperback copy is on its way to me at some point. Absolutely love this. And this one, what I love about these books actually is there are tons of descriptions of food and the food making process, and this one in particular focuses on Andy, who is taught the bakery in the books. He's the barista there, and so he's part of the team, and he is obsessed with coffee. He's really knowledgeable about coffee. So as part of treat, really as part of his knowledge expansion, I suppose, and formative time, he is treated to a trip to Costa Rica by Juliet and Carlos, who own Tort. And so they go to Costa Rica and learn all about the coffee making process. It's a huge process. For you to drink coffee at home today, just know that it's travelled many miles and it has been through many stages. It's a huge process to process coffee. It's a huge process to process cocoa as well, I have learned. Chocolate is a very expensive item as well. But anyway, they go to Costa Rica and they visit a farm there which is being threatened by a big company. So there's a murder that happens and you have to investigate. It's a very good book, and Costa Rica is absolutely gorgeous in this book. And I know that the author Ellie Alexander actually went to Costa Rica to research this book. So you do feel like you're part of the culture there. You do feel like you're part of the town there as well. They visit farmers markets and coffee places and all sorts of things, and the food is splendid, honestly, throughout the book, and the descriptions of people and food is just absolutely top notch. You can tell that she's done some research. Number 2 was Lady Isla and the Lord of Rogues by Sophie Laporte. This is the latest book in the Merry Spinster's Charming Rogues series by Sophie Laporte, which I really enjoy. It's so much fun, and this one is about Lady Isla, who is desperate to find childhood friend, and in the meantime she's been proposed to by this other man who keeps chasing her, and who just hops along on her adventures trying to find this friend. She rubs shoulders with the king of the underlord of St. Giles, I should say, and things happen. It's a very fun comedy of manners, and this is kind of catnip really interagency romance, and she does it so well. And there are mistaken identities, and her brother is a member of parliament, and there are all sorts of things, and people just taking care of each other, and the hero is just wonderful and so brilliant. He's obsessed with clocks, and I just find that so endearing. Yeah, just absolutely wonderful book. I highly recommend this series, honestly. It's light and cozy and warm. I also read How to Lose a Lord in 10 Days by Sophie Irwin, which I had pre-ordered actually. I read Sophie Irwin's 2 other books, which are The Lady's Guide to Scandal and The Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting, and both are absolutely excellent. I love Sophie Irwin, so I had pre-ordered this latest book, How to Lose a Lord in 10 Days, about a woman who is an heiress actually, and she's proposed to by this man, and out of the blue, and he proposes to her. She is so taken aback that she says yes, but they've got to keep it secret for 10 days, which is perfect because she's got to jilt him in 10 days. She's got 10 days to get rid of him, and so she does everything in her power to make him hate her. There are so many pranks and so much banter in this book. It's so much fun. Massive comedy of manners. There's a ball, there's country house stay, there's all sorts of things going on in this book. She's got a brother who is a darling, who calls Pip, who is a budding investigator, budding detective, and it's a charming book. Honestly, I love Sophie Irwin so much. I think she's perfect. If you love Georgette Hare, I think she's in the vein of Georgette Hare today, writing today. So yeah, just absolutely love her, and I will follow her till the end of the world, honestly. Absolutely adore her, and this book is excellent. New to me authors, I was able to purchase on my Kindle and to read a lot of new to me authors this summer, and a lot of first book in series, which is always fun because this means that if I love the series, I can just fall back into reading series actually all year long, as opposed to trying to find new to me authors, which is a daunting task. I read Emily Goes to Exeter by which is the first book in the Travelling Matchmaker series by Marion Chesney, The Wagered Widow by Patricia Veryan, and Miss Grimsley's Oxford Career by Carla Kelly. And all of these authors are Signet Regency authors. That was an imprint of Harlequin, I think, in the US, which published kind of traditional Regencies, so sweet Regencies where all that happens really are kisses, and which are very much comedy of manners. All three books are superb and so much fun. Again, Emily Goes to Exeter is the first in Travelling Matchmaker series, where a young widow, actually, a young woman who is a housekeeper is left a huge sum in a man's will, and she decides to travel the whole of England because that was her dream, to travel by stagecoach, and she is a matchmaker in the process. Really, all sorts of things happen. They get stranded at an inn, and she makes food for them, and she tries to make people fall in love with the right person. It's so good. I love this so much. It's just exactly my cup of tea, and I can't believe it's my first Marion Chesney. She has a huge backlist, so I'm so happy to have a new favourite author. Really, it's just one book, so hopefully all of her books are as good as this one, but I think they are, so just couldn't be happier, honestly. The Wagered Widow by Patricia Veryan is about a widow who is obsessed with securing a rich husband again to keep her and her son Anthony safe, which I can completely relate to. Go girl. And in the process, she secures the interest of a very boring man, while another rake is actually chasing her, and it's kind of a comedy of manners really between the three, and a lot happens. It's hilarious, and just really so much fun. And Miss Grimsley's Oxford Career by Carla Kelly is actually one of my favourite books this year, unexpectedly. It had so much depth for being a comedy of manners and Regency. It's about Miss Grimsley, Ellen, who is obsessed. She has a huge passion for literature, and she has a huge passion for learning. Her dream is attending Oxford, but Oxford doesn't take women at the time. Her brother, her good-for-nothing brother, is offered a place at Oxford, so he goes, and he asks for her help. Actually, he's not the brightest person, so he asks for her help with his homework, with his coursework. So she goes there, and she meets James, who is a man, Oxford man, and she meets them. They have all sorts of adventures together, and there is a political intrigue, but it's also this insane love for literature, and Ellen is just the perfect heroine, and I hugged this book so many times. Actually, there's a scene when she hears people talk about things which are really near and dear to her heart, and which she had experienced very sparingly on her own in her bedroom, and to see that people can be as interested in her as her in those topics makes her just almost cry. And you know, when you have a secret interest, a secret niche interest, and one day you meet people who have the same interest as you, a whole world opens, and I just absolutely adore her. This had some of the best, most romantic scenes and lines and declarations of love which I have ever read in literature. It's a partnership of equals for sure, and God, this book did so much. I can't believe it actually. But yeah, I'm just so excited to read more about Kelly and by Patricia Veryan as well. In the cozy category, I read a few books. I read Miss Bunkle's book by T. Stevenson. Goodreads tell me that it's my first time reading this book. I could remember a lot of the plot, so I don't think so, but I don't know when the last time I read it was. Can't remember. But it was so much fun about a woman who is in a sleepy little English village. She decides to write a book about all the inhabitants of this village, actually, using the synonym John Smith, because she needs money. And so a lot of things happen after the publication of this book. People start to realise this book is about them, and it makes them act in certain ways, and a lot of things happen, but also it's just about the eccentricities of an English village, which is always my favourite topic. Excellent Women by Barbara Pym is kind of the same actually. I have read a few Barbara Pyms actually, which I can't really remember, but I've never read Excellent Women. It is so good. The heroine is one of those excellent women who is always there when you need her. She's a spinster, and she is kind of always there with a cup of tea, and always there whenever you need her to fix an emergency, or to fix just any situation whatsoever. One day her quiet existence is a bit shattered when new neighbours actually take possession of the house next door, and she shares a bathroom with the lady actually of this couple, and she is kind of entangled in their very not quiet life, and things happen. And this had very biting lines about marriage, which I found hilarious, and I really like Barbara Pym actually. I had forgotten just how much I liked her. I also reread Warden by Anthony Trollope, which 19th century author, and very much about the mysticity, and about this one is about an English village which has a warden, and suddenly people start questioning why he's allowed to have that much money as a salary. And it's a quiet but revolutionary, I suppose, tale of a family who is changed forever really by this gossip, by this sudden revolution out of nowhere. The writing of his daughter I thought was absolutely excellent. I can't wait to dive more into Trollope really. This was really good. I read The Way We Live Now, I think at the end of last year, and I really enjoyed that as well. So yeah, definitely someone I really want to read more by. I read A City of Bells by Elizabeth Goudge, which was my first Goudge. She's a writer who I am interested in, but I don't know if A City of Bells was the best way to be introduced to her. I don't know. It was okay. It's about Jocelyn, who is back from the Boer War. He's a bit traumatized, and he's back with his grandparents. His grandparents in the meantime have taken in his young cousin Hugh Anthony and a young girl called Henrietta, and Henrietta is adopted, and she's a precocious, marvelous, precious child. She's obsessed with literature and poetry, and she was the heart of the book for me. Jocelyn meets a man called Ferrante in this cathedral town called Torminster at the beginning of the book, and Ferrante disappears all of a sudden, and people encourage Jocelyn to open a bookshop in this town to find the mystery behind Ferrante's disappearance. This is a very weird book, honestly. I don't know if I should have started with that for Elizabeth Goudge. I don't know if that's representative of all of her work, but this was a strange book. The plot makes no sense, because why would you be interested in Ferrante, who appears for 1.2 seconds at the beginning of the book? I don't know. But the domesticity, the everyday life of these people, Henrietta, also the romance, which was very sweet, and the writing, which is completely magical writing, makes this book very interesting for me. This was a 4-star book, because the plot was just very odd, but the writing was just so magical and so gorgeous that of course I want to read more by Elizabeth Goudge. I just want another book like that. I don't want a book that's a bit better in terms of plot, which has gorgeous writing, but also gorgeous plot. Yeah, please. So if you have any recommendations for that, please leave them my way, send them my way, and I definitely give her another go. I'm not done with her, just that parts of the book were completely gorgeous and parts of the book were completely puzzling. So in terms of fantasy, I reread 2 books which are some of my favourite books ever, actually. More by Terry Pratchett, about death, which takes an apprentice in Discworld, and it's a very emotional and funny book. Lots of funny things happen which made me laugh, and lots of very emotional things happen as well, which made me really ponder, I suppose, the meaning of life. And he does it so well, honestly. And every time I read more, because I've read it several times by now, every time I reread it, I always think, well, I'm going to keep reading the death books. Really, there are several, I think 5 or so books in the Death Arc series in Discworld, and every time I just stop at more. So I need to carry on reading, really, because his books are just so precious. I reread also Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Marillier. All of the content warnings for this one. This is high fantasy about 10th century Ireland and Celtic folklore, and gorgeous fantasy about Saoirse, who is one of my favourite heroines actually in all of literature, and who comes of age actually in this book. She has 6 brothers, and they all, and something happens to them, to their family, and she goes through a lot in this book to get her family back, let's just say. And there is a romance in this book which is very well done, and there's also a lot of trauma in this book which is also very well done. And this is one of the rare books which I will still read, even though there are so many content warnings in this book. It's a very violent book. She goes through a lot, but she is also just precious, and the story will, I think, stay with you forever. It has stayed with me. It has haunted me ever since I read it first, I think about 10 years ago. I think about this book practically every day. So if that says anything about it. I wanted to keep on reading Juliet Marillier. Actually, I have read a lot of her books. I have read all of the 7 Witches book ages ago. I have read a lot of her books, but I want to go back to her, reread her, and go back into reading fantasy. Actually, I kind of lost that curiosity about fantasy because so much of it is just so violent, and my threshold for violence has not been, you know, the best really the past few years. But I want to kind of tiptoe back into fantasy if I can, and try to reread some of my favourite books which I read as a child and as a teen and as a 20-year-old woman, and I would like to revisit them and see if I can still enjoy them today. So this one was definitely yes, even though it's very traumatic book, but I think one of those rare books where the journey is absolutely worth it. I also read Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. I've read The Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher, which was sold to me as a cozy fantasy. It is not super cozy to me. I think T. Kingfisher in general is cozy adjacent. So you see, there is a threat like kind of looming in all of her books. There is violence kind of at the edge of it, and sometimes part of the story as well, and gruesome parts as well. But the overall mood of the book is that people are happy by the end of it, by the end of each book, not just by the end of the series, which I think is important in cozy fantasy. But Paladin's Grace is about Grace, who is a perfumer. Very interesting profession. Don't know why there aren't more perfumers in fiction. I love that. Description of smells and scents and herbs and spices and all sorts of things was just chef's kiss. So she's a perfumer, and she is rescued one day by a paladin who has lost his god and has been taken in by another church. And this paladin is very powerful, but he also knits, and he's also just absolutely cinnamon roll of a hero. And yeah, together they are embroiled in political intrigue for the kingdom. This was very interesting. I read it on Eurostar actually. This was a train book, and I loved several parts of it. some of it is violent and gruesome. There is a mystery, there are murders, but most of it is just this romance, which is very about healing past hurts, which I think a lot of romance is about, if I'm being honest. But yeah, this was very good. Honestly, I was so impressed. I'm always impressed by T. Kingfisher, but she's a very interesting author, I think, and this is the first book in a series that I'm definitely going to read more in. Yeah, and last two books are mysteries. Pardonable Lies by Jacqueline Winspear, which is the third book in the Maisie Dobbs series. Very atmospheric, right after the First World War, so still dealing with the consequences of that. She was a nurse during the war, and she's a private investigator now, who is very keen on making sure that there are no loose threads at the end of an investigation, at the end of a case, and making sure that everyone is happy and in a good place at the end of the case. So it's a very different approach to investigating. And I reread Miss Pym Disposes by Josephine Tay. I have never completed my Josephine Tay reading, although I've read several of her books. Josephine Tay is a golden age mystery writer. She was writing at the time of Agatha Christie and Dorothy L. Sayers, and she is maybe one of my favourites. Honestly, she's very good. Her writing is insane, so good. And she really dives deep into the psychology of her characters and the consequences of murder and of violence. And Miss Pym Disposes is investigation. It's a Lucy who is a psychologist, and she gets invited back to her school to give keynote. And there things happen, and it's a physical college, meaning that the girls are there to study sports, and you dive deep into the everyday life of these girls who are mostly 16, 18, trying to get a career for themselves, and into boarding school psychology, which is so good, and so good for mystery especially. And you dive deep into that, and she investigates things happening there. This kept me riveted, and it's a page turner of a book. It's an amazing investigation, and I love it when authors really explore a world and psychology of characters within a world. Like, you feel part of this world very much throughout the book. It's amazing writing. I highly recommend Josephine Tay, honestly. And now moving on to shows. I have, as a consequence of the London Luxury Hotel tour, which I took in London, I was recommended actually The Duchess of Duke Street, which is an older BBC drama about Rosa Lewis, who rose actually from being a cook to being the owner of the Cavendish Hotel in London at the beginning of the century. She was a mistress to the king at some point, and she just rose really because her cooking was just so good that she was able to attract aristocracy and then own her own hotel. It's about her, it's about Rosa Lewis, and it's a fictionalized version of her life really, but The Duchess of Duke Street, and stars Gemma Jones, who was Mrs. Pomfrey in the Harry Potter films, but also Mrs. Dashwood actually in the 1995 Ang Lee and Emma Thompson Sensibility. I have watched the first 2 episodes. It's excellent, and he has made me actually want to go back to career period dramas as opposed to romance period dramas. So career period dramas like The House of Elliot, about the fashion industry in the 20s, The Duchess of Duke Street, about cooking, but also Selfridge and The Paradise, really about the fashion industry as well, and department stores in the 19th century. And yeah, this had made me want to go back to that kind of period drama really. I am currently watching that. I'm currently also watching Call the Midwife, which is also a career period drama about midwifery in the 1950s. This one is, and which I have watched before but not till the end. I stopped at some point. I'm also watching the Lord Peter Wimsey oh my god series, which started in 1972 sort of with Ian Carmichael, and then was picked up again for the last 3 books minus Busman's Honeymoon, which the BBC did not acquire the rights in 1987. I have watched Gordy Night with Harriet Walter playing Harriet Vane. She's perfection, and Edward Petheridge as Lord Peter Wimsey, and Gordy Night was absolute delight. gorgeous, the epitome of prenatal drama for me, and absolutely wonderful. You don't need to have read the books, but the books are truly excellent, and Golden Night is my favourite, so I watched Golden Night first, which is the last episode actually. It's a very self-contained mystery. All you need to know is that there is a romance between Harriet and Lord Peter, which is very well explored. It's very good in the book, it's excellent in the book, but it's really good in TV show as well, and the casting is pitch perfect, honestly. And I started and finished the entire Endeavour series, which is about Inspector Morse as a younger man. I have never watched Inspector Morse, the TV show. I have never watched Lewis either. I started with Endeavour. I had watched a few episodes of Endeavour years ago, and it was so sad they stopped. It's very sad. It's a very atmospheric and melancholy show in the 50s and 60s. I loved it. It's very heavy. It's a very heavy show. Each episode can be watched like a movie. It's an hour and a half long, and a lot happens. It's a very heavy show. It's not gruesome in any way. They don't spend time on bodies or anything too gruesome, but the ramifications and the psychological aspect of the show, I think it's very well done. Endeavour himself is a very intellectual young man, and he goes about everything intellectually, but yeah, it wears him down at some point, just the heaviness of crime and the heaviness of murder, really, of violence. And the casting is off the charts, honestly, and the music is off the charts. The cinematography is absolutely stunning. I highly recommend this show, but it's not a happy-go-lucky show, it's not a cozy show. It's just a very, very, very good period murder mystery. Excellent stuff. Honestly, I loved it until the end. The last episode made me cry. A lot of episodes actually made me cry. But yeah, absolutely excellent. Do I want to watch Inspector Morse and Lewis? Maybe at some point. But I think the strength really of Endeavour was the cinematography and the atmosphere, really, which is so special and so self-contained, and the casting as well. So I'll miss it for a while before moving on to something else, but yeah, in the meantime, I'm just so happy with my Golden Age and career shows. So Duchess of Duke Street, Lord Peter Wimsey, The Paradise, Selfridge, and Call the Midwife. Yeah, absolutely wonderful. So there you have it. That's everything in this video. I hope you found something to enjoy. I hope you yeah, you find something to enjoy. I hope your summer is going well. At the moment, I'm reading a cozy fantasy, and I don't know what I'm going to read next, really. As I said before, I'm going back to work in 2 days, so it's going to be all hands on deck for a while, especially September, which is our back to school period. I work in a school, so very heavy period as well. But yeah, I'm just trying to enjoy the rest of my holidays at home, and just staying at home as much as possible and recharge before going back to work on Wednesday. So yeah, hopefully lots of happy reading, and yeah, I will see you soon for another video, and take care, and I hope you enjoy lots of amazing books in the meantime. Bye.